Welcome to the Doing Good podcast, formerly known as the Common Sense Steps to Doing Good. I'm Karen Phillip, a passionate advocate for doing good. I believe in the wheel of social impact that we're preached at too much and not enough time is spent acknowledging who we actually are. I've spent my career meeting amazing do gooders, and while their work is celebrated, their humanity is often overlooked. I created this space to peel back the layers, to share our stories, our struggles, our triumphs, and the secrets to doing good better. Welcome to the Doing Good podcast. I'm your host, Karen Phillip, and today with me is my friend, Alisha Ali. There's a running joke that I love to collect communication girlies, and she's the latest one in my collection. She has been a joy to work with for the past few years, and I can't wait to learn more about her journey in doing good. Alisha, thank you so much for being here.
Why, thank you, Karen. And I am so grateful to be the latest in your collection. It shows you have a quality collection, by the way.
Yes, I do. All right, Alicia, tell everybody else who you are and what you do.
Oh, that is such a complicated question. But for the purposes of the Doing Good podcast, I am a global strategist, I'm a policy storyteller, and I'm also a researcher. So I work at the intersection of entrepreneurship, innovation, sustainable development, and I act as a bridge. So I take all of these complex thoughts, complex narratives, and I turn it into actionable and measurable outcomes. And that is the magic of my communications niche.
You started with the bridge, and I feel like we're going to have to come back to that. But before we dig into what it is about how you become a bridge between policymakers and the average person, let's talk about your doing good toolkit. What are three things that you have in your toolkit or at all times?
An immense amount of grace. That's one. An immense amount of patience because people think doing good is something that is just so reflexive, should come so easily. It's not. You do need some patience. And the third thing is humor.
Humor. Yes, definitely. So let's dig into that. Grace. When you talk about grace and being a bridge, how do you see those two things working together and doing good?
Well, it's important as a communicator for me to have not just sympathy, but empathy for all aspects of the people who are involved. So, not just the policymakers, but for people on the ground as well. The grassroots people, the at risk, the marginalized communities, the vulnerable communities. I need to be able to empathize with them so that I may communicate in a way that they understand. And so, a lot of the times, people don't understand that the communication process is not just I send a message. It is I send a message and you receive the message in the way that I intend for you to receive the message. A lot of times we don't take into account people's experiences, people's feelings, what is going on with their life. So sometimes you send a message and we like to assume that because our message is important to us, that it's going to be important to other people. Not understanding all of the little nuances that they have to go through. So you have to give it grace. You have to give yourself grace and you have to also give other people grace. Sometimes you are met with aggression. Sometimes you met with that wall. You know, you've had to climb that wall a couple of times. And you're like, but I'm trying to do this for you. Why are you fighting me? And it is something that you have to have the patience to be able to break down those walls, to go into the communities, to be able to deal with the policymakers as well. So you understand where they're coming from and how best you are going to get that action that is going to improve the lives of people.
So it sounds like you have to know yourself a lot in order to be able to do what you do with this communications week that you're talking about. And can you tell us a bit about your journey and how the areas in your life that you had to give yourself grace while acting as a bridge between policymakers and those on the ground?
Boy, that's a hard question there, Karen. So knowing yourself is an ongoing journey, right? I claim to have a gold star in knowing myself? No. I probably have like half a gold star, right? But it's important because I wanted to be a really great communicator. Now, a lot of people don't understand. I do what I do not because it's theory, not because I want to do good. love the name of the podcast. I do it because it was a lived reality for me. I grew up impoverished. I grew up without enough to eat. I grew up without water and electricity. I grew up without a support system. My teachers are the ones who paid for my exams, for my CXCs, and for my A levels. I did not have the money. I got bullied at school for not having the newest shoes, or the latest, like, the new uniforms. I had hand me down uniforms. I know what it is to be underestimated as a young woman from the Caribbean, a brown woman from the Caribbean, a single mother. These are lived realities for me, so I can empathize with a large portion of the people whom I deal with in our project life, right? So when I was in these situations, very few people gave me grace. I was a very angry child. I'd like to think I'm still an angry child, more rebellious. I've always been rebellious. But what I learned from those experiences were from the people who took time to understand me, understand why I was so angry, understand why I was so aggressive, understand why I was so hyper independent. I could not ask for help. I did not want to owe anybody anything. I did not want you to come around and promise me you're going to make my life better, and then you suddenly just drop off, which is what happens a lot in our development funding, and our donor funding and our programs, etc. People come in and say, oh my gosh, in like a year and a half, we're going to achieve this, you're going to do this, etc. But then they just disappear. Either the project fails or it closes because we only check the boxes. We tick the technical boxes. We trained 25 people. We went out into the communities 4 times. We spoke to community leaders. That's not impact. That's not result. That's not anything that had an impact on me. So, in order to be able to have the grace that I have now, I learned from the people who had grace with me.
That was very powerful. And I want to just take a moment to thank you for sharing that heaviness that you just shared with us. But I also wanted to just touch and be like, so how have you been able? You said that you had to sit with it. You had teachers that helped you along the way, that helped you work through, and then therefore you decided. But does that fuel you still? Or is it that you were just looking for a way to pay your bills?
No, what it was is, and a lot of people ask me, like, why do you do what you do? A lot of people expect me to say, well, I want to make the world a better place. I do what I do, one, so I could never be poor again. Two, so that I can create a society that my son will be proud of my impact in that society, because I am raising a man for society. So if I'm trying to raise him to be a good and decent human being and do good in his life, I need to give him as best a society as I can influence. And the people who stood by me in all of my troubled teen years and all were not just teachers, they were mentors, and everybody had a different way of doing things for all the different stages of my life that I was at, or all the issues that I was going through. Everybody had a different approach. Not everybody was soft and nice with me all the time. I had the tough love as well. I had so achieving scholarship. I am a achieving scholar. I did not want to apply for that scholarship. One of my mentors bullied me into applying for it. I applied for it on the very last day of the deadline, just a few hours before the deadline. That is how much I did not want to do it. But there were people who recognized the potential in me. Now, a lot of times we emphasize potential, but potential is something that does not translate into action. You have to move with the potential. There are so many people who have potential who don't do anything with it. Thankfully, I had people who dragged me kicking and screaming into realizing that potential. And so that is what I do now. I will never be able to repay them for what they have done for me. So this is me reaching back a hand and bringing forward all the other people behind me who need that hand, who don't have those people to drag them kicking and screaming into realizing who they should be or what their purpose in life should be.
All right, so let's talk about the Chevin Scholar. How how was your education life had been for you? Because I know right now you're also studying again.
Yes, I'm a career student. No, I'm not a career student. So one of the things I have always struggled with. I am not an A plus student. I am not an academic person. I love all the books that I see there. Some of them I do want to put in my bag and walk away with because you do have wonderful books like Charlotte Web. I'm more of a fictional person, but to read a textbook and regurgitate that information it does not make sense to me. It needs to be applicable. I need to see how it applies for me to internalize and understand it. I didn't know that was my learning style until I was doing horribly at school, in high school, secondary school. Not because I was not smart, it was because I could not regurgitate the content. Yeah. And thankfully, I had educators who tried different things, and they found a way to learn, to teach me. And so that was how I made it through school. But then going into the working world, as a young woman, it did not matter how smart I was or my ability to do things with excellence. Everybody wanted paper qualifications. And so I paid my way through my undergrad. Most undergrads are 3, 4 years. Mine took 6 years because I was working as an intern. I was not even making peanuts. Peanuts was my aspiration. Right? So I had to slowly pay for each course and pay for each exam as I had the money. And I made a decision after my undergrad. I said, I am not paying for my master's. And I said that because really I didn't want to do any more qualifications because it was so hard to get through the undergrad working, being a mom, and doing school.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And I wasn't flush with cash. So I had like 2, 3 jobs and I had an infant son and still trying to write 5,000 word essays on criminology. Like, it was a little bit much. And I wasn't moving anyway in my career. I couldn't pivot. I couldn't do anything other than what I was doing with my career at the time. And I was unhappy. And one of my mentors, she said to me, she was like, listen, you need to get your master's degree. So that way you have more opportunities available. So for 3 years, I kicked and screamed. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do this. She said to me, you cannot call me again complaining that you don't like your life, that you don't have any prospects, that you are frustrated, that you are at the end of the rope until you make a move to do something. Okay? Here's the Shevening link, apply, and then we'll talk about it. If you don't get it, then fine. I can work with you to see how we can pivot. But I am not going to work with you if you are not going to try. I was like, man,
Some tough love.
oh, it was so tough. I was like, wow. Okay, fine, I'll apply for it. And I just applied. It wasn't a plan that I had to apply or anything, but I got it on the first try. And so I did my Shevening scholarship, and then I got another opportunity from the United Nations to do a second master's degree.
Okay.
So I got a second master's degree, but I got qualified as a certified diplomat. So my first degree, master's, is in media practice for behavioral and social change, which is what we do as communicators in development. Right? The second one is on development and diplomacy. So my second master's is in development and diplomacy, spanning all 17 SDGs. So a lot of times when people ask me, well, what qualifies you to talk about trade? Well, I'm gonna put this paper right down there for you to see. And then I have a third master's. It's an MPhil in management. So I've learned how to merge sustainable development with business. Because a lot of times, especially in the global south, in Caribbean and African societies, we look at them as separate entities, as separate categories, and we don't merge them. And it's a very difficult thing, especially when we try to have social impact ventures and entrepreneurships. Look at Helen's Daughters. Yeah. It is a sustainable development initiative, but it is also a business as well. And we need to equip our people with the knowledge of both sides. So the doctorate that I'm doing now, which is a doctorate in business administration, helps me to merge everything into one. Not because I want to do it, but because I have the experience and I have the networking, the qualifications, and that is what makes me the bridge to be able to equip our people and empower them with my knowledges, my scope of experience, and everything, and show them a different way things can be done.
That's a lot that you do. That's a lot that you've done. And all I keep hearing from it is that it takes a village. It takes a village. It talks about your teachers from when you were younger. Then it talks about your mentor when you finally finished undergrad, who made you apply for the Sharon. So how do you cultivate? How do you, and because even being a bridge is about creating access to other persons. So how do you cultivate this village? How do you maintain? How do you work through life and have time?
The village is important. So I'm a single mom, right? I live in St. Lucia, but I'm first generation St. Lucia. My parents are Guyanese. So all my family is not in St. Lucia. They're
Uh-huh.
everywhere else.
Okay.
And I will say one of the things that I have always been myself. I may not have known myself on such a very deep level as a child or whatnot. I knew there were certain things that I would tolerate and wouldn't tolerate. A lot of times we have the buzzwords authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
I was just myself. And the people who I've had around me have been around for decades. We're not gonna put a timestamp on it because I'm 25 plus VAT and shipping and handling and few customs fees in there as well. So, but it is important to find the people who see you. There were people who saw me when I couldn't see myself. There were people who, when they saw me, I was very upset with them for seeing me. I told you I was an angry child. So we had an antagonistic relationship. You think all my mentors, we had such a wonderful, happy go lucky tea at 2 o'clock type of relationship? No. Some of the mentors that I had held on so tightly to me while I was trying to run away from them. We butted heads so much, but they recognized there was a need that I could not identify because I couldn't see myself. I grew up as a young woman in a very close minded society. So I was raised to be a wife. I was not raised to be anything other than that. I had to know how to cook, to clean, to take care of the house, to iron the clothes, that sort of thing. Nobody thought it was important for me to have an education. Nobody thought it was important for me to participate in extracurricular activities. Nobody thought that I could have a life outside of being pretty and getting married.
If that was the mindset that you grew up with, and then you disrupted it,
Oh, I'm a
basically,
disruptive spirit, Karen. You know this. You know
how
this.
did you navigate that disruption, and how, and is it accepted now? Is it like, okay, we can't control Alicia. Alicia is Miss Free Spirit and this is the life she's chosen? Or do you still butt up with that? Like, why are you not married? Why are
Oh, I still
you
get it. I still get it. So I would love to glamorize the fairy tale and say, oh, I broke from the mold and I was a butterfly and I spread my wings and everything was so great after that. No. When I was disrupting that narrative as a child, I did not know that's what I was doing. I have always been a rebellious spirit.
Mhm.
So I grew up as a tomboy because I wanted to be seen differently. So yes, I still like the pretty dresses and I love to get my nails done, etc. But growing up, I had to get people to take me seriously. I was small. I'm shorter than everybody else. And I would tell you, growing up, I was a very quiet child, soft spoken, did what I was told. Girls should be seen and not heard. I very much internalized that. Eventually, I learned how to start speaking up for myself. Because one of the things that I would do is when I would get really upset, I would stay really quiet and cry. Like the tears would just run down my face. And so I got teased a lot when I was younger, like 8, 9, 10 years old. 'Cause you don't cry, baby, that sort of thing. So I decided to find my voice. And finding my voice was not something that happened overnight. It took so many years to know the things that I would tolerate, what I would say. Did I go wrong a lot of the times? Yes, because I did not have somebody walking with me like I walk with my son and say and give him advice and say, okay, well, this is how you should handle this situation. I had to figure out a lot of situations. One of the things that really did help with disrupting the narrative was my involvement in civil society. I got involved in the church at a really young age. I got involved in the youth movement at a really young age. I
sorry, you said the church helped you go up against gender norms?
well, the churches that I attended. So I had it was a Pentecostal church in where I grew up, Viewfort, because I was running around like a hooligan. So, especially during the holidays. So there was this lady, her name is Mawebs, God rest her soul. And she saw me running around like a hooligan. I talk about people who saw me.
Yes.
I was always a chatterbox.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk about anything to everybody, right? And she literally plucked me off the street and had me doing craft in vocational Bible school and those sorts of things. And she recognized that I was a creative. So I would always be building things and doing things.
Yeah.
So she gave me an avenue to channel that energy. Then all of a sudden, I'm in the church plays, doing the theater, and helping to make the costumes. So she gave me that outlet for a while. Did I stick with the church? No. But it was also, as I said, trial and error of disrupting just what my life should have been. And that's what it was. People saw me and just adopted me.
The village again.
It was the village. And that is also how I networked so well. Not just growing up in St. Lucia, but everywhere. So I got involved. So Sim Mawebs, she was the surrogate mother to St. Lucia's Prime Minister, Dr. Kennedy Anthony. We didn't know this until decades later when we came together for her funeral, because I gave part of her eulogy and he gave the other part. And we're looking at it. This is a man I know in the professional space. This is also a man who was my MP, who, when I was always labeled as a talkative child, getting punished for talking, he put me in debate.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed me to structure my thoughts. He's like, okay, you know what? Alicia likes to talk. Let her talk. So that, and every time I would win a debating competition, he would send me books
Mm-hmm.
because he knew I like books. But my family couldn't afford to buy books for me to read. All I could do is go to like the library, and you have the tattered versions of books. He was the first person that allowed me to own a book for myself, that I could write my name in, that I can say it's mine. I still have those books up until today.
That's powerful.
And I didn't know that he and I shared a connection until I was a grown woman with my son and everything. I come back from studying for my master's, etc. And then here we are sharing this woman, Mawebs, as our common person, because she adopted him the same way
Mm-hmm.
and gave him an avenue to channel. And so he learned from her how to deal with people like himself. All right. So that's the thing I say about being your true self. Knowing, I may not have known what I wanted for my life, but I know what I did not want. I didn't want to be married, and I didn't want to just be a wife.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to live in someone else's shadow. Did I know what I wanted my life to look like? No. But I knew specifically what I did not want.
Yeah.
Because I saw it in my community and I did not want it. So I did everything that I could to not want it, including being the most unpleasant person you can come across. So, in terms of disrupting the gender norms, it's because I knew what I didn't want for myself. I started to do the things, like just trying different things. So I still dress differently now. Yes, I can dress like a super duper girly in the pink floral dresses, but my son and I also share joggers and cartoon t-shirts because it became part of my identity. So as much as I may have gotten criticism for it, it was what I was comfortable with. So what I did not want is what really drove how I formed my identity for myself. I could not tell you what I wanted in terms of gender norms or networking or being a bridge or whatnot. I just knew I wanted to not. That was my driving statement. And then I met people along the way who were so impressed with what I knew about myself at such a young age, and I was always willing to accept their advice. Now, the thing with advice, as good natured as it might be, never take it wholesale. You have to pick it apart. There are things that are useful, things that are applicable, and then there are things that you just need to put away. Not that you don't respect the person who's giving the advice. Even the people who are resentful and bitter and mean towards you and they say certain things, I still take what they say and I pick it apart because sometimes there are useful things in there. And you have to Be self aware enough, emotionally intelligent enough to know that not everybody who cheerleads for you is good for you. There are people who will support you wholeheartedly, but they also have a problem telling you when you need to pull back because they want to cheerlead you and support you and uplift your spirit. And that is great. And we love them for that. But you do need people to give you the feedback that you are uncomfortable with. And not everybody is okay giving uncomfortable feedback.
This episode is brought to you by Kainos Caribbean, a consultancy dedicated to helping you do good better. From grant writing to project management, Kainos Caribbean provides the common sense steps to turn your passion into a powerful, well run organization. We help you cut through the jargon to find the right path to creating real lasting change. Visit kainoscaribbean.com to see how we could help your organization thrive. So I feel like having a village is important. Like,
Yes.
your first life
Yes.
lesson there is having a village, being teachable, and then on top of that, you talk about even though you remain teachable, understand that not everybody is at the same level to provide the critique that you need.
So that's important. One of the things, so let's go back to the question you asked that I didn't answer. I have a friend of mine, and again we're talking, and you're in a friendship and what are you talking? And she said to me, "Stop. You need to learn how to listen." Because you hear the question, then you usually start talking, and then you go off on a tangent, but you have to be disciplined enough to pull yourself back. Now, had I been a less emotionally intelligent person, I'd be like, "How dare you?"
Yep. Yep.
Did it sting? Yes, it did. But I also realized she was not saying it to be mean to me. Right. And you have to, that's the thing, not just being teachable, but understanding when you get, none of us are perfect. When you get the critiques, you take them and then you see them for what it is. Some people will critique you for critiquing your sake. You have to know when to separate that from people who are coming from a place of love, a place of improvement, and they want better for you. And they tell you, okay, Karen, this is what you need to improve on. Right? Will it sting? Yes.
Yeah.
Will you get a little watery tear in the eye? Yes. But it was important for me to hear that lesson that I needed to actively listen more. And so this is about us evolving as a people. If you evolve yourself as a person, then you are better able to help your community around you because you are learning skills that you can pass on to them. And then you pass it on to them in a way that works for them.
So this goes back to the grace and the patience that you started with, because
Yes.
you're talking about if we want to actually interact and make a difference with the people in our lives, and you have all these people that once again you have to have grace and patience with others and with yourself.
Yes. That's if you want, a lot of people think doing good is standing up on the pulpit and saying, I want better for you. Come to me because I want better for you. That's not how it works. You have to gain people's trust. Once they see you as human, the fact that you yourself are trying to have grace and patience with yourself, and then they see the effort that you are making with them. And in all my work in the civil society and all the work that I do globally and locally, that is something that I always get commended for, which makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Why does it make you feel uncomfortable?
Because it's something that I've always done. I don't think it's unique. I don't think it is something that I need to be, I don't know, acknowledged or recognized or rewarded for. It's like when you're supposed to do a job and then all of a sudden you have this trophy that says, "Congratulations, Karen.
The job is done.
The job is done," that sort of thing. It's just as you said, it's my toolkit. It's what I use to be able to execute what I'm supposed to do, the purpose that I have found it. I'll tell you this. I'm one of your communication girlies. I've listed all my qualifications. There is not one paper qualification in there to support my communication ability.
True, I noticed that.
I am a good communicator by experience. And so, what I have done is equip myself with everything that I feel the people that I want to help should know. That is where you get the translating complex narratives into actionable items. Because now I can understand the technical, the difficult part of it, the part of it that nobody talks to us about, and then be able to filter it into a very simple and clear message to be able to reach the people it needs to reach.
And you spoke very passionately earlier about impact, and that reaching the people isn't just about saying that you had a workshop. You want to dwell a little bit more into that?
Yes, because I think a lot of times when we talk about doing good and we do good and we say, okay, I went out into the community and I spoke to 10 people. That's what you did. That's not your result. What is the result of you speaking to your 10 people? Did 3 people want to follow up on you with you about a particular thing? What happened to those 10 people? And I think we do not understand what it means to have impactful results and measurable outcomes. So if you have a workshop and it's you know the buzzword, we're empowering women, and you trained 25 women in farming techniques. Okay, so what? You trained them. How many of them attended? Did all 25 attend all of the sessions? Then what happened? Did they start businesses? Were they able to feed their families? Did they start like their own home garden? Did they go out and train other people? What is the impact of the intervention that you have done? And I think we have a culture across the global south because we have many people who come in with programs and projects, and when we see the press releases or the video news releases, or we see them on news, that is what we've been socialized to think that results are, but that's not what they are. What is the impact of your intervention on this person's life? Did they just attend a workshop and decide, I'm never going to do this again? Exactly. What is your impact? If you, especially for gender-based violence interventions, you're running this intervention, you're running this awareness. Can you really prove that the awareness happened?
And I mean, that's an ongoing struggle coming from the side of somebody who helps with grant proposal writing. And persons still, they can't tell the difference between an output and an outcome, which is basically a short term, the medium term impact, right? And the struggles that we face when we're doing good are like trying to understand the not only just the technical terms, but also how to measure it and how to say that this project is not just about providing training, it's about this long term impact that it's going to have with people.
And that's why I consider myself a policy storyteller. Yeah. So everybody asks me, what does a policy storyteller mean? It tells the story of the policy or the intervention on a human and relatable level, because that affects participation, buy-in, trust, and impact. And it's also why I have a background as a researcher. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, but if you do comms, why do you need like statistics?" And
You need statistics.
I'm like, but how am I knowing I'm communicating with you? Yeah. Especially when you communicate across different cultures, different languages. We are all one Caribbean, don't get me wrong. We are all similar, but our uniqueness is in our differences. We could all speak English, but listen, you have a Trinidadian background and I have a Guyanese background. You going to say curry goat? No. Exactly. I say curry goat, right? You going to say goat curry. We have the same fish. You say cascade.
The Guyanese is going to say goat curry.
No, yeah, it's goat curry, right? Y'all be out here. Yeah. Trinidadians and Jamaicans, they curry their goat. I got my curry. There's a difference. Right? That's what makes us who we are. And when you're running comms campaigns in Jamaica, you're not going to run the same type of campaign in Barbados. We have different norms, different nuances, different ways of living. And so that's why it's important to collect the data and collect the research and understand if your communication about the intervention is getting your desired result. Remember what I said, communication is not just me sending a message to you, it's you receiving it in the way that I intend for you to receive it. So that is why the research part of comms is so important. But a lot of times we confuse comms with marketing and public relations and all these other sorts of, these are umbrellas that falls under mass communication. They have a place, Because even with marketing in communications, you have a project, a gender-based violence project. You have to figure out how to market it to the audience. Right? You have to figure out how to get the participation, especially if you're working with the indigenous community or any other vulnerable community or marginalized community. You have to figure out how to market it in a way that they come to you.
Yeah.
Because if they don't come to you and you force yourself on them, you are not going to have any desired results. You are not going to make the impact that you want to have. So, doing communications is so much broader than a lot of people think. And especially working in the project space, the comms budget is always the first one to get cut. Or even in certain projects, there's not even a need for a comms officer or a communications person. And then towards the middle of the project or the end of the project, everybody's pulling out their hair and saying, but how do we communicate what it is we've done? And I know comms seems like a very easy thing, like, you and I are having a conversation. It seems like everybody can do it.
It's not.
But it is a specialized field. It's the same as accounting or being a lawyer. It is a specialized field. I know it is more accessible to the public. So it feels like everybody can just pick up a camera and just make a reel and great. But it's about the message that goes into it, the thought that goes into it, how it's crafted. And I'm going to say this, communication is as much an art as it is a science.
Yes. So tell me something, Alicia, in all of this, and all these studies, and all this work, and being a bridge, being a mother, how do you do it all?
Oh, I don't do it all. I don't. You see, that is a common misconception a lot of people have. I do it one at a time. I know a lot of times we get told as women, oh, you can do it all, you can get it all, you can have it all. I can tell you that is going to kill all of us because we are now stretching ourselves into so many different people at the same time. So with my son, when I show up as a mom, I am wholly a mom. If you, Karen, trying to reach me about work and I am in my mom mode, you will not get a response from me, or you will get a, let me talk to you about this later. When I am in my work mode, I show up fully in my work mode. What we don't understand is when we try to diminish the different parts of ourselves and don't show up as 100% of ourselves, that affects us physically and psychologically as well. Because you will beat yourself up for not showing up 100% at work because you had to run and do all of these other things. Then you will not feel fulfilled. Then you will start to question yourself. Then comes the self esteem and the self doubt and all of those things. And I've learned in trying to do everything that I don't do everything well. I do it well when it's one at a time. And I'm able to fully focus and be present in the moments. So when I am doing my training courses and my workshops, my son knows he doesn't bother me. I am not thinking about school or anything. I show up 100% for that moment. When I am at my son's swim meets and his competitions, I am 100% there. The only time you will see me on my phone is to record it, right? To record his race or record him getting a medal or whatnot. I am not responding to emails in that moment. I am not doing work in that moment. I am in the moment because I also feel it is more of an enriching experience for my life to be present and in the moment than to try to share the moment with so many different people and things that it becomes a burden.
Well, you have achieved. I don't think I have that. I think I still try to do everything at all times.
I can't, it's hard. A lot of people don't admit how hard it is. It takes a level of discipline that sometimes, honestly, I have a lot of alarms on my phone.
Yeah.
Because even during the day, when my son comes from school, I make an hour and a half to sit down and speak to him. Speak to him about his day, speak to him about who annoyed him, speak to him about whatever interesting thing happened, or speak to him and and he knows he has my full attention for that hour and a half. The TV is not on, I'm not checking my phone, but you see after that hour and a half, you need to leave.
Yeah.
Because I got stuff to do. I either have like work to do or I have school to do, I have something to do. But I gave you your hour and a half. Now, I am very blessed. My son is 13, almost 14. I cannot say the same would apply with younger children, right? So that's the thing. You have to figure out what works best for you in your life and what are your goals. Like my son and I have an extremely beautiful mother-son relationship. We say this all the time. We love each other immensely. We don't like each other all the time. And that's okay, right? Because sometimes he says to me, Mommy, listen, you're really annoying me today. I need some space. I was like, how dare you? You want space from all of this awesomeness? I am offended. And I get a little eye roll, and he's like, okay, I will spend time with you. So even he has adopted showing up for himself. So when he's doing his homework or whatnot, I can't knock on his door and be like, hey, you want a cup of tea? He's like, listen, you are interrupting my flow.
Mm.
Okay?
But it reminds me also of it was Michelle Obama who said you could have chapters, but you can't have it all. Like don't buy into that dream that you can have it all at all times. You could have a chapter when you're a mother to a young child. You could have a chapter of conquering the wheel in this area because the child no longer needs that amount of attention. So it reminds me of that. But tell me, how do you celebrate? How do you celebrate your wins?
Loudly, loudly with flair. I grew up, and we grew up in the Caribbean. Women are not encouraged to celebrate their wins.
That is one thing you taught me. One thing you always encourage me to do is like accept the compliment, accept the win.
Yes.
So let me hear how you came to be this advocate for accepting
Because
compliments and
nobody
wins.
was celebrating me, right? And that's
Yeah.
the thing. I had my village.
Uh-huh.
Let's go back to Mawebs. I was on radio as my first job. I was on national radio, and I would go visit her, and she'd be like, "Shh," and she would shush me, and then my voice would come onto the radio. I would be reading the news, and I'm like, why? And she would call, and she didn't have a television. She lived in a very impoverished area, and she would call all the neighbors over to listen to me reading a newscast, which I didn't even. But it's a newscast. It's my job. I do it all the time. I didn't think it was a huge deal. But she would call everybody to listen to this newscast, and then she would say, "Look at her! Look, this is her. The voice you're hearing on the radio." And she would clap for me louder than anybody else. And I'm like, but this is just a regular thing that I'm doing. It's not like a huge deal.
That's so sweet though.
So that's the thing. The village forced me to learn how to accept the compliment. The village forced me to celebrate the wins. They didn't care if I celebrated my wins, They celebrated it for me. When I got announced as a Chevening scholar, I was actually in Guyana at a CARICOM Youth Ambassador Conference. And I would say to you, I got the email and somebody read the email over my shoulder. And because I was just very quiet about it. And it's like congratulations or whatnot. And I heard this big whoop and this big scream. And we are at the CARICOM Secretariat, very formal. Secretary General Owen LaRocque was there at the time. It's a very formal setting.
Yes.
And guess what? My people did not care, right? Because I was comfortable with just closing the phone and putting it away because, okay, fine.
This is a new life change. I have to absorb.
I have to. And they turned the whole afternoon into a celebration that I got this evening. And it was a conditional acceptance, I didn't even get the final acceptance. They didn't care. They were like, no, you're going to get that final acceptance. You deserve this. And so seeing people celebrate me and my wins on things that I didn't think probably deserved it shifted my perspective. And then I work with a lot of young people, and I realized a lot of the habits that I emulated, they did as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I downplayed my accomplishments and when I downplayed my wins, that is how we were perpetuating that type of gender norm in society because I had the power to break the cycle and I wasn't. Yeah. And so I noticed I used to get uncomfortable when people gave me compliments. They say, oh my gosh, you did such a great job. I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. No, I had to not just learn to step into my power, but stay into my power. So one of the quiet rebellions that I have in society is to compliment people. Okay. And that's why I compliment you. And then when you don't take the compliment, I say like, listen, just take the compliment. And if I see, especially a woman who is winning, And I recognize her win, and she's like, oh no, this is not anything. I will make it loud.
So how do you stay in this power?
Boy, just have to remind myself, I am absolute magic and sparkles. That's what it is.
So you use affirmations.
I do use affirmations because I do have to remind myself that I'm magic and sparkles, especially on days when you have those cloudy days like, oh my goodness, I do not feel like an absolute queen of the world today. And the thing is, give yourself grace in those moments.
Going back to grace.
You have to give it, because not every day is going to be a good day. Life is hard. We have triggers and traumas and life experiences that sometimes, even in the midst of our happy moments, a little darkness creeps in. You feel your feelings, but you don't hold on to it. You have to learn how to let it go. And there are so many times and so many people, verbal abuse is real. Growing up, I did not know how to recognize it. So there were people who always tried to dull your shine, who always tell you, oh, you feeling yourself. Oh, who you think you are. You a stush girl. You are this, you are that. We internalize so much of the negative that we don't recognize how much of an effect it has on us as we move forward in our daily lives and how we grow up, and also how we pass that on to other people. And so I make a conscious effort.
Yeah.
It is something I have to be very intentional about. So when I am in spaces, which also makes me a great networker and builder of bridges, because I network so authentically. If I am at a conference and I'm hearing someone speak and I'm like, listen, first of all, love those shoes. What size are you? Right? But also, when you spoke about this resonated because of, I always qualify it because we go out into the world and we have these superficial meetings with people, these superficial connections. So one of the intentional things that I do is not to make my connections superficial. If you and our energy not going together, thank you. It was such a pleasure meeting you. I will see myself out.
Keep your boundaries.
Not everybody is for you, and you are also, and that's something I recognize, I am also not for everybody. And that is okay. A lot of times we are hard on ourselves because this person don't like me, or that person, or I'm at this job and I just can't seem to mesh or click with my coworkers, or that sort of thing. Remember, it is about knowing yourself to a particular degree. Right? You're not for everybody. Right? You might not be everybody's cup of water, but you're somebody's cup of tea.
That is a gem. You're not everybody's cup of tea, and it's okay. Not everybody, yeah, not everybody has to like you. Not everybody owes you acceptance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you do not have to change yourself to fit into anybody's mold of what you should be for them to accept you or like you. And so you have to be comfortable with not being liked.
Yeah.
And I am so comfortable with not being liked.
And I guess that is needed to stay in your power, because you have to stay into who you are, stay into the sparkles, as you call it, stay in the magic. And you've shared so much with us today. You've talked about your journey from childhood and your teachers, the village that helped you through the poverty into actually getting an education and realizing that maybe you could do more than just be a wife and a mother. Not like there's something wrong with that, but if you want to do more,
Exactly.
right? And that's what they did for you. And then you talked a lot about tough love as well, and that they need to stay teachable. And even in staying teachable, knowing who to listen to and who not to, like who in your circle could actually speak into your life and could critique or provide insights at the level that you're looking at it for, which is very true, because sometimes persons unwittingly become yes people because they don't know any better. So they're just going to support you. And your journey from becoming a journalist into communications and being a bridge with the policymakers, truly inspiring and truly inspiring. So if you had one last thing you want to tell to a future do-gooder with all the stress, everything you talked about, making sure that you have boundaries in place and not being superwoman.
Yes, important.
What is that one thing you would tell a do-gooder coming up?
One thing I would tell a do-gooder coming up is believe in your magic. That's it. Because that's the hardest part of being a human being, is believing in our magic. A lot of people talk about believing in yourself. Yeah, that's great. But A lot of times we do not believe in our abilities. We believe in ourselves. We say, oh, I'm a good person. I believe that I'm a good person.
You're
Right?
going to preach to me again?
Yeah, I'm preaching to you. You notice I'm looking at you, I'm side eyeing you. But you have to believe in your magic. You have to believe in your ability. So if you are a really good accountant or a really good grant proposal writer, believe it. If you're a really good podcaster, believe it. You have to believe in your magic. And a lot of times, I mean, people think magic is for fairy tales. No, we all have our own little sparkle of magic. And we just have to remember to believe that it is okay for us to be magic and to have that type of magic to share with others.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to believe in the magic, believe in my magic. Thank you so much, Alisha. Thank you for being here today.
You are most welcome, Kara, and thank you very much for inviting me. I had such a wonderful time.
Thank you for tuning in to Doing Good podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, please subscribe. You could find every episode of the Doing Good podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your audio. For video content and all the show notes, including links to Alisha Ali's work, visit our YouTube channel at Kainos Caribbean. Be sure to follow us on social media at Kainos Caribbean on Instagram and LinkedIn to stay up to date on season 2 episodes and join the conversation. Until next time, keep doing good better. This episode is brought to you by Kainos Caribbean, a consultancy dedicated to helping you do good better. From grant writing to project management, Kainos Caribbean provides the common sense steps to turn your passion into a powerful, well-run organization. We help you cut through the jargon to find the right path to creating real lasting change. Visit kainoscaribbean.com to see how we could help your organization thrive.